Hello, I'm Cleo Franklin. I'm the founder and CEO of Morningside College's Franklin Leadership Foundation and global consulting business, Franklin Strategic Solutions. I'm also the proud author of a new book just released called Coffee with Cleo. But folks, I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here today to introduce an exciting new partnership with Morningside College. It's called the Franklin Leadership Professional Development Series. This series is really developed with you in mind. As we deal with the challenges of COVID-19 that has brought about a lot of uncertainty, fear, and doubt, we feel that with chaos comes opportunity. And this initiative is that opportunity to share with you by introducing and bringing to you virtually the best minds across the globe to talk to you about issues, challenges, topics that you're concerned with. What do I do when it comes to pursuing a career? How do I professionally network? What are the tips and tricks to be successful in my life? I hope that you'll find this series and this platform of engagement with business professionals will be enlightening for you to help you not only rise, but soar to the next level. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Morningside, as well as those involved with the Franklin Leadership Foundation, we welcome this opportunity to engage with you. All the best.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started today. The first thing that I'm going to do is introduce Cleo Franklin. Cleo is one of our Morningside College alums, and he is also kind of the mind meld behind this series that we've been providing to you throughout July and moving forward for the next couple of weeks. So Cleo Franklin graduated from Morningside College in 1981 and currently serves on the Morningside College Board of Directors. He is passionate about providing opportunities and resources to inspire and support the next generation of leaders. He is the founder of the Morningside College Franklin Leadership Foundation, author of the leadership book Coffee with Cleo, and founder, president, and CEO of Franklin Strategic Solutions, a global consultant and leadership development business specializing in global strategic planning, marketing, business development, organizational development, brand strategy, executive coaching, and keynote speaking for all industries. So with that introduction, I'm going to ask Cleo if he can unmute himself and introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, Stacy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And I want to also welcome everyone that's joined us today for not only a timely discussion, a very relevant session, but one that I'm personally excited about. You're going to hear from Fred Lange. Fred Lange is not only one of the best in the business at what he does, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's a friend, he's a mentor, and he's helped many Fortune 500 companies truly identify, acquire talent, but also providing strategic advice and counseling in many different realms. You know, Fred and I have known each other about 7 years. And the thing that I love about Fred is this: he understands concepts. He also understands why they matter and how to bring those concepts down from the 5,000 foot level to the ground level to be implemented and also executed by anyone and anybody. Fred is not only humble, he's curious, but he also is a servant leader. And I can't say anything more about my friend and colleague, Fred, that I've just said. The fact that I'm going to introduce him, let him speak, and without question, you are in for a treat. Thank you, Fred, for providing your time and expertise and sharing with this audience. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Cleo. You're very generous. And I learned something new that we have in common today. We both graduated in the same year. Pretty interesting, huh?
It certainly is. It certainly is.
So I look forward to getting going. So let's jump in, everybody. First off, you should know that I have a particular point of view. I'm coming from a recruiter, HR professional. You know, I am not an economist. And we're going to touch on a number of things. But the thing you should know is I'm hoping to give you a little look behind the curtain on when you submit a resume, when you're looking for a job, what is the other side? What's the recruiter looking like? What's the companies looking for? So particular point of view. The other thing you should know, I graduated, like Cleo, in 1981 when we'd followed 2 years of recession. And unemployment was near 10%, not as bad as what it is now, but definitely stressful times. I was fortunate enough, had family members in Houston that took me in, provided me room and board. It took me 5 months to find my job, but the exciting end to that was I ended up with 2 offers and started my career in a job, in an industry I wasn't particularly looking at, but in a job that was a perfect fit for me. So don't lose hope. Take the time. I know if I had the information that we're going to go through today, I likely would have had less stress and would have gotten there quicker. So let's jump in and take a look at, first off, what's going on around us. So pandemic, recession, Black Lives Matter, police reform, election year, EU ban on US travelers, felon voting rights in some of the states. News last night that the market took a dive again, but it's still up from where March is. The thing I bring this all up is if it hasn't for you, you can already feel the stress increasing. And job searches are stressful. They're also exciting, but definitely we're in stressful times. I work with college athletes and athletic teams. And just this last week, heard from one of the athletes who had said he wasn't able to breathe in his workouts. Saw a doctor, came back, saw it was all stress related. If your anxiety's up, it's part of the water we're swimming in right now. Another one of the athletes that works at Trader Joe's told me, look, back in March, people were coming in to the store, tons of fear on their face, anxiety on their face. He started to drop back down in and around the beginning of June, and now it's back up as the cases are kind of exploding. Anyway, so we're in stressful environments. I encourage you during this time to take steps, to lower your stress. If there's guided meditations out there that are advantageous to you, look at them. I always tell my players, athletes, so on, to breathe and do breathing exercises. It's a great, quick way to lower your stress. All right, stressful times. As we know, history has a way of repeating itself. A good book that's out there, James Grant, he looks at what occurred right after the Spanish flu, the last time we had a pandemic hit the United States. I'm not going to go into all that information. The thing you should know about my slides in this presentation is I have them more like a workbook than I do a typical presentation. But I put them in more of a workbook form because I couldn't find a book out there that I could recommend you go to. But more importantly, that you could go back and look at these notes when you come back to the presentation. All right, so you don't have to take copious notes through this. As you look at the slide, if you look in the background, you'll see that, yes, this is, I think, a Duke football game, and they're wearing masks. I like what Nicholas Thompson of Wired said about the COVID-19. Nice, short, succinct, not a lot of numbers. Vaccine progress, it's going well, but we're a long way off. Treatment and progress is also going well, but not enough. Effective test and tracing, it's not going fast enough. We're not even near half of what the CDC is targeted. And then social norms to prevent transmission. Obviously, we've seen the challenges to reopening the economy, and that being threatened by the record cases that we're now experiencing in the United States. Let's talk about the recession. You might see a trend in this. In fact, take a look. 80, 81, 90, 2000, 2007. There's a trend going on there. Then taking a second, you might see that trend. And what that is as the recessions go longer, the unemployment rate goes up. So as we are sitting in this recession, the quicker we can get out of it, the quicker that unemployment rate will drop. As you can see down below, we're experiencing, it's a decline, but both Forbes and Fortune have run articles saying, hey, look, this unemployment rate may be as high as 20% right now. But there's good news behind this. So why do you think these dates are important to recruiters? 90 to 93, 2000 to 2003, 2007 to 2011, 2020, maybe to 2024, maybe 23, 24. We know that the job market doesn't get hot till a year or two after the end of the recession. So there is some good news there. And what that is you have an opportunity in your career path. If things don't match up with like there's anomalies to career, recruiters will overlook that. So you have an opportunity now. If there's something you don't see the jobs that you're looking for in the industry or in the business you're looking for, this is a time where it's okay to take an interim job. It won't look bad on your career path, and recruiters will overlook that. But there's some rules about it. If you take an interim job, make sure you do these 4 things. What did you learn? What skills did you add? Relationships and friendships. How did you expand those? In other words, build your network. And last is, what did you accomplish? So if you're taking an interim job, if you're taking a gap year, make sure you include these 7 things, or excuse me, 4 things, and the rules to pursuing an interim job. All right, LinkedIn, last month, they interviewed or surveyed 100 job experts. And this is what they said was the approach with regards to looking for a job during COVID-19 or a recession. First off, be patient. Work on your strategy and materials. We'll take a look at that. Build your network and online presence. We'll also take a look at those and unpack those as well. And then take time to relax. Work hard at this, but also make sure you take time to relax and drop that stress down. Okay, now let's look at some of the industries out there. You might, as I go through these, see 1 or 2 that interest you and focus in on those. You also might find when you're doing your network and exploring, there may be other industries like myself that you didn't even think about that were a great start for your career. So let's look at this. What is Forbes saying? They're saying, look, movie theaters, department stores, remote office spaces, definitely in a decline, and they may vanish. There's increases in jobs in fitness equipment companies. We've seen that from the work from home. We're seeing increases in games, makers and puzzles, landscaping and plant nurseries, and drugstores, delivery online sales. Even CVS has said they're going to increase hiring by 50,000. Ford is predicting that their plants will be fully capacity in July. And industry experts out there are curious and wondering if there will be a demand for those vehicles. Amazon, they've had 175,000 temporary workers. They hope to keep on 125,000 of that. In the tech industry, what we're seeing is a movement to work from home, which means people are able to kind of expand the geography of where they would be an acceptable job. You know, you may take a job that's 3 hours away, 4 hours away on a drive because you can work from home and you don't have to go into the office very often. We're also seeing that the 2020 conferences have been canceled. Depending on how things go with COVID, we may see the same thing in 21. The insurance industry is a hot spot. There's an increase, they're up 35%. I think people are looking at their risk awareness and it's increased. So insurance industry may be a good place to go for the next 2 or 3 years. Sports and entertainment, we're seeing the events, large events being impacted in a shift to video on demand. And video gaming is up, no surprise. People are at home. Microsoft, Nintendo, Activision, Twitch, all up. We're also seeing local delivery services are up. Travel and tourism might be an industry to stay away from. $113 billion loss. And today in the Wall Street Journal, they're indicating that some of the discount airlines may be places to go in the industry that they're starting to merge. Retail, the movement in retail is going to be over to e-commerce. That'll see the shift of where the winners are going to go. Finance tech, there's going to be there has been a drop in transactions. So those are the big banks. Nike, for instance, their sales dropped 38% this first quarter. They're predicting the next quarter results will be not great either. for many retailers and many businesses. But you can see 85% of the stores have opened in North America. So there may be opportunities there for interim type of work. And then Apple opened stores, but they're also reclosing stores because of the resurgence. Josh Bersin, he's somebody that's highly regarded by many HR pros. This is his slide on what industries may be emerging and useful to go after. He's saying entertainment and spending is going up for online, sports are moving to digital formats, home hygiene, instant food products growing, new demand for financial consulting, new food services and delivery offerings, specialized retail drug markets are opening, COVID safe in packaging, COVID safe in travel, COVID safe around food services, personal coaching is up, and exercise, music, personal development, alcohol and spirits are growing. Virtual reality and video tech is also exploding. And he cautions against oil, gas, automotive. All right, let's take a quick look at GDP. It's often something you'll hear out there about how we're doing in the economy worldwide. I threw up the Great Depression just as a marker. The GDP estimated it dropped 15%. Back in our Great Recession back in 2007, 2008, it was dropped 1%. Where we are now, the World Health Organization says we're going to drop 3%. So we're nowhere near the Great Depression, but definitely something deeper than, the Great Depression, something deeper than the Great Recession. I added down below the slide from the World Health Organization. They're tracking our GDP here in the US, saying in 18 it was 2.9, in 19 it was 2.3, and then 2020, they're expecting a drop down to 5.9. And then really optimistic to say that 2021 will be up at 4.7. So will this recession look as V-shaped, U-shaped, or L-shaped? And if you look at what the experts saying, we really don't know because we're not able to predict what's going on with COVID-19. If you ask the recruiters, they're likely going to say it's going to be U-shaped in that when we get out of the recession, it'll maybe be anywhere from a year to 2 years until job growth gets hot. So what are some of the exercises and things you can do to be better prepared for your job search? And there's 5 things that I suggest that you rank for yourself. Go through and look, and these are the decision makers in choosing a job. And those are the challenge of the job, the leader, the team, the industry, and the economics, the salary, the benefits, and commute, and so on. You want to take those and go through them and list them from what is most important to you to what is least important to you. And these may change over time, but they will help in your decision making, they'll help in your search. Another thing that I would suggest about that is that you add some color to it, that you add some information. So if the leader is the most important to you, describe something about what that leader ought to look like. If the team is most important to you, what is the aspects about the team? And then also look at what is minimally acceptable to you. You know, what are the economics? There may be a minimum wage that you're able to accept. With regards to the challenge, there may be certain things, aspects of the job that you wouldn't take. All right, and more about building your materials, your presence or narrative. The other night I was talking to a former Disney recruiter, and she was saying, you know, they looked at what was your compelling story. So you want to look at what is your why or purpose or theme. Many times that's hard to get at. You might need a coach to do it. I suggest a quick way to kind of glean that is to go through and write what were 3 exciting times for you in your life and what was a real challenging time, and look at those and go through them and now ask yourself, once you have those 4, what was exciting about that? Why was that exciting to you? What did you learn from that? And what did that make available to you? That you can see as you look through them, a possible theme and purpose and why to your life, to your career. Right? Or you can do what Pete Carroll did prior to him going to the Seattle Seahawks. He took out a yellow pad and wrote for weeks and pages, trying to get at what was his overall purpose in his life. My point with Pete is it is a challenge to look at it, but it's worth doing that work. And then add to that, what are you good at? What teams and projects were you involved in? What was your role in those? What internships did you do? What part-time jobs or summer jobs did you do? And what kind of work did you gravitate towards? And if you look back to what Dr. Davis did in his presentation 2 weeks ago, there's some really grateful insights there, narrowing down what is your story, what is your narrative. And then lastly, what's your end game? What are you looking, where are you looking to be 7 years from now? And that may change, but have a horizon where you want to go in 7 years and then maybe 20 years, right? But about every 7 years, that horizon will change for you. Let's see, my slides changed here. Hold on a second. All right, there we go. Next, who are you? I'm a strong proponent of doing personality tests. The one I like the most is out there is type-coach.com, www.type-coach.com. What are personality types useful for? It's peeling back the onion about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your tendencies? And in the interviewing process, when you're asked about your challenges, you can take a look at your personality type, see what challenges your personality would typically have, and see what progress you've taken towards those challenges. Add to that what your interests are. I call those your wild card. One of the athletes that I work with, he and his father had this challenge. Every summer they were going to visit the National Baseball League parks. And at the end of a number of years, they had visited all the national parks in the United States. His wild card would be if he was ever interviewing for a position within that athletics or baseball was involved, he had a wild card. He had something unique to himself, going back to Disney, something that was compelling about his story. Yours may be yoga, yours may be years of ballet, maybe piano, maybe research, but there's things that you have of interest that you've done. Those are important. Those have you stand out. Then look at what are your skills? What of the skills have you developed academically in any kind of part-time jobs that you've done? Look at those skills. All right. And then your competencies. And we'll talk more about the power skills and what I mean about power skills. All right, this is probably the second most important slide that I'm presenting to you today. And if you work on these accomplishments, they're like interviewing. And the more you interview, the better you get at it. I've oftentimes had individuals walk away from an interview and go, oh, if I'd only thought about that one experience, if I could only have shared that. This is a way to accelerate that. So list your accomplishments. Like I mentioned before about getting to your why, 3 life experiences that were great experiences, 1 challenging area, go through, list those out. Why were they important to you? What did you learn from them? And what about them makes something available to you, makes something possible? So now you've got 4, maybe 5 different accomplishments. Then go back through each year of college, come up with 4 accomplishments. Yes, 4 accomplishments for each year of college. If you did any kind of work in there, great. But there's accomplishments in each semester. In fact, there's probably an accomplishment in each class. 4 accomplishments for each year in college, 4 accomplishments for your total years in high school, and then 4 accomplishments for years 10 to 15 middle school. So when you get done, you're going to have 25, maybe 26 different accomplishments. Then you want to go back through those accomplishments and use the STAR technique. What was the situation? What was the task? What was the action you took? And what was the result? So a quick example of that. So let's say you were in a sales job. And when you went in, the typical salesmen were doing 5% sales or 5% increase in sales each year. The task was to increase sales. The challenge was the action you did in that challenge was what did you do to improve sales? And the result might be that you increase sales to 10% or 8%. All right. And I often get asked about the result. Well, what if it wasn't something you could quantify? Well, look at what did you make better? Out of the situation, task, the action you took, what did you make better? You may have made the team just more collaborative, all right? Okay, so 25 accomplishments or more. Go through those. And then once you've got that list, you've got an explanation of them through the STAR technique. Take a look at them from your soft or power skills. I like this chart because they divided it up into 6 different areas. But go through each one of those accomplishments and look to see how did they impact your power skills. I don't know, in leadership, maybe you were working on excellence. You raised the bar in something. You know, maybe in cognitive development, you solved a problem. Maybe under collaboration, there was some conflict in the team and you resolved that. Okay, so you want to add some more color. Look at the power skills, which is how you accomplish what you accomplish. It's not only just the what you accomplished, the action you took, but how did you accomplish it? A little bit of a tangent, but I often get asked, what about small companies versus large companies? Should I take a job in a small company? Should I take a job in a large company? Should I go into a startup? My suggestion to you is do both. If you have the opportunity to do internships in a small company or a large company, do them both. If you're coming out of college and you haven't had any internship experience, you know, in the first 7 years, get experience in both. Then you'll have a better idea. What fits me? Is it a small company or is it a large company? And you can refer back to that to look at what are the pros and cons to large and small companies. If you're still in school and you have the opportunity to do internships, by far, start doing internships. You know, I would recommend it to freshmen coming in to take on internships. Get as many internships as you can. I have a bias to that. Recruiters have a bias towards not only studying, but getting work in your experience. Have both. Those will make you a better candidate. About your resume, 1 page. You don't need longer than 1 page. You get out to 10 years, okay, go to 2 pages, but 1 page. And the most important part of your resume is the top section, that top third. One of the recruiters I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, tech company in the Bay Area, she had an engineering 1 job open. She received over 400 responses to that job ad. Now, she ended up, the 4 candidates that she picked were all referrals, and we'll talk about how important that is. But she was looking at resumes, maybe 10 seconds to 15 seconds a resume. So you want to make sure that that first page in the top section of your resume has your information and focuses in on your education experience, because you're looking for an entry-level job. Your jobs ought to be down below. But the most important things is, what did you accomplish in your education? All right. Now, getting your resume done, have somebody look at it who has expertise in it, whether it's from your guidance office, whether you hire somebody. There's lots of people out on LinkedIn. But remember, you're entry-level professionals, and the focus is on your skills that you learned academically. So any community and voluntary service that you might have done while you're there, any accolades you got, any honors, if you're on clubs, did you end up in any kind of role where your leadership role there, class projects, if you're in athletics, any accolades that you had on athletics. And the goal, the bottom line to your resume is not to tell your whole history. It is to get yourself an interview. Again, the goal of your resume is to get you an interview. All right, this is the most important slide in a recession, in COVID. This is the most important slide that you'll see. It is about building your network. And next week, the whole presentation is on building your network. So I'm going to give you some highlights, but really tune in next week and go much deeper on building your network. So this iceberg slide, 20% of the jobs that are available, you'll see posted. 80% of them never get posted. They're filled by people that are referred. Going back to the example that I gave with the recruiter, her top 4 that she had were all referrals. So how do you get referred into a company? And that is building your network. So let's talk a little bit about building your network. First circle, second circle, and third circle relationships. First circle, those are the people you talk to weekly, mom, dad, best friends. those people you don't have to invest much in. They will expand out your network willingly. They're there, they're advocates for you, they will help. But with them, you don't have to invest much in them. And you can ask for referrals, and definitely go out to them asking for anywhere up to 5 referrals, and they'll gladly give them to you. What 5 referrals? Any industry that you're interested in, any company that you find out there that you're like, wow, I'd like to pursue that. Ask that first circle, second circle, third circle about referrals that you can get into that industry. With second and third circle, you have to treat them just like you would your relationship with a bank. You have to deposit something into that relationship in order to take a withdrawal. So if you're asking second or third circle relationships for help in networking, guess what? You need to come back to them with information, with help. So if they tell you their interest is in X, after your call, your interview, your talk with them, send them a text, an email with maybe an article or some information about what you discussed. That is putting a deposit in your network bank. There'll be a lot more about that next week. This is the number 2 slide. And this is a skill development. Some of you may call this the elevator pitch. I call it the 2-minute drill. You want to get great at this. The people I've worked with that got excellent at this, they've been able to use it at networking and interviewing. And it's a way to be confident, to be kind of proactive about yourself, because people are going to ask you the question, well, what are you looking for? Or tell me about yourself. So this is a format for it. It's 120 seconds. The first 15 seconds should be something about yourself, something unique about yourself that they wouldn't find on your resume. I don't know, maybe you've been a piano player and you've practiced since you were 5 years old. That may be something unique, but if you can tie it to the job and tie it to an attribute and even tie it to something about that person, even all the better. Okay, so something interesting about yourself, 15 seconds. Then a summary, 15 seconds summary about you. The heading ought to be something like, I'm a recent college grad looking for an entry level into, fill in the blanks, that industry, that job, so on. Then your education, 30 seconds, because that's the thing that you're focusing on. 1 to 2 accomplishments in it, and they're just brief statements like bullet heading one sentence. You got 30 seconds. Your education summary, a degree in mathematics from Morningside, and 1 to 2 accomplishments there. The next 15 seconds is a quick accomplishment about any kind of work experience. If you had multiple summary jobs, then put it into some kind of summary. You've had a number of jobs where you were in customer service, right? One of your accomplishments was X. And then why, 30 seconds, why are you interested in talking or networking with this person? Why are you interested in their company? Why are you interested in this job? 2-minute drill. There's more details. You can reflect back to it. You didn't have to take notes through that, where I break down that 2-minute drill in much more detail. Your online presence. If you get to the top 3 candidates for a job, guess what? That recruiter is going to go out and look at your online presence. So go look at it. What do you have up on Instagram? Does it look high and reflect highly on yourself? If it doesn't, clean it up. I get asked about personal website. A personal website is useful if that fits the career you're going into. If you're going into marketing and advertising, yes, have a personal website. There you can show and exhibit some of your materials that you've done in some of your classes, any kind of marketing materials, any kind of advertising campaigns. If you had any kind of temporary jobs, you can do the same thing. If you're going into sales, maybe. If you're going accounting, finance, HR, any of those support functions, probably don't need a personal website. But I don't know, let's say you're really interested in becoming a sports broadcaster. Definitely you'd want your own personal website. Use LinkedIn as a extended resume. You can put much more detail on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a great place to do networking. You are interested in Pepsi-Cola company, you can go into LinkedIn. You can search there. Maybe there's Morningside graduates that you can look at. Those might be people you could go in and then network with, okay? But use LinkedIn. You can provide more information about your experience and more details about yourself. I haven't used Handshake, but some of the college recruiters I've talked to, they use Handshake. Make sure you get yourself out on Handshake. And I believe Morningside also has that available through their guidance center. Interviewing prep work. So preparing for an interview, take your list of accomplishments. And then if you have a position description, go through and match your accomplishments with the responsibilities of the job. So as you go through the description, what of your accomplishments match up best for that? Okay, that's a great way for preparing for it. If you have the job description, look down under the qualifications. They're going to talk about those power skills, problem solving, collaboration. Look at your accomplishments list and see which one of those match up. Now you're prepared to talk about that, okay? If you're doing video interviewing, oh, excuse me, sorry, going back to interviewing, be authentic, be authentic, be authentic. Have a clear idea of what you want before you go into that interview. Focus in on your interests, but be open-minded, be inquisitive. The job they may be interviewing you for may not be the job you end up in, but you may find things out about that company, about that hiring manager that has you be interested in that company. Interviewing, I'm going to just hit a couple quick points. Every person you touch along the way, either whether it's email, by text, be polite. They all feed back into the recruiter as to making an assessment about you. Good reporters go back through and they look at and they ask everybody that's been involved in interacting with you what they thought about. What was their impression of you? Remember, Malcolm Gladwell said you have 30 seconds to make a good impression. Dr. Bradford Smart said you had 2 minutes. That's what's so valuable about your 2-minute drill. Practice your 2-minute drill. Have that down. If you come into the interview setting, typically the interviewer is going to ask you, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Or you can be even more proactive, show some leadership, show some forthrightness, and say, hey, let me start with telling you a little bit about myself. Use your career guidance center. If there's companies interviewing on site, definitely do as many interviews as you can possibly fit in. Learn about those companies. Learn about jobs you may not know at this point in time. Okay. And then make sure when you interview with someone, talk with someone, that's even in your network as well as interviewing, take good notes. No interviewer is gonna raise their eyes at all if you are having a notepad in front of you and taking good notes. And follow back up them with your thank you note, commenting on something you learned, something positive through that. And if you can quote them, even the better. Always end the interview asking them about what's the next step and your interest in that company or that job. Now, video interviewing. Test out the software, rehearse on camera. Like I mentioned about the accomplishments, go through them. If you don't have a job description, go through your accomplishments in front of the camera, practice, right? And exaggerate your emotions. We tend to be a little more monotone when we're on screen. All right, article came out last week. Highly liked, maybe it was a month or so ago, excuse me, it wasn't last week, in Forbes that I really liked. And that is, these are skills to look at, 8 skills in developing as you go on from here to continue your lifelong learning, to continue your learning. And that's in tech savviness, creativity and innovation, data literacy, being able to look at and examine data, big push in that direction. Critical thinking, being able to recognize the validity and the usefulness and the trends in data. Leadership, we're becoming more fluid. Emotional intelligence, as I've talked about, power skills, and then lifelong learning. 35% of the skills that we deem right now essential, those will change. So invest in you. Never, never give up. As this guy, and you see him pushing the rock up the hill, never give up. Do the work in preparing and block out hours for doing this work. It's like taking another job on. Have on your horizon what you're looking and hoping to accomplish so you can emerge strong out of this recession, out of this pandemic. Have something on your horizon, and most of all, be authentic. So in summary, be patient. Work on your strategy, your why, your story. Work on your materials, your accomplishment list, 25 plus accomplishments, your 2-minute drill, your networking. Build that network. Build and clean up your online presence and never, never give up. All right, I think it's time to open up for questions and answers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Fred. I tell you what, from a career services standpoint, I'm the director of the Career Service Center here. You are killing it. So we're loving everything that you have to talk about here. So we would certainly encourage anyone who has a question right now to go ahead and put that in the chat, and we will make sure that that question gets answered. I think while we give some people time to put together a question, I did have a question that I wanted to ask you, Fred. And
Sure.
you gave some great interview tips for students to think about. And I think right now, when I'm talking to students, the biggest sort of hurdle they have with interviews is that the first interview for most things these days is starting out on the phone. Do you have any like real quick sort of tips for students about phone interviews versus video or in-person interviews?
Yeah, so phone interviews, definitely have your 2-minute drill that you practice, right? So you have that. So you can start off with a quick, here's, quick summary about myself. So definitely have your 2-minute drill. Since you're on the phone, have your accomplishments up in front of you on the screen of your computer so you can take a look at those and refer back to them. And you might even want to put a mirror in front of you so you can see your expressions just like you would in a video interview. And so you can see the emotions that you're putting in behind that interview. But I would say, have your accomplishments available in there. Practice before the phone interview and practice your 2-minute drill before you come on.
Perfect. We do have another question on here. If a student is going to reach out to a company on LinkedIn but doesn't have any connections there, where would you have them start? Any particular person in a company to send a message to?
Yeah, so going in cold is a challenge, right? And I would first, before I do that, look at my network. So if I've gone to my best friends and I've asked them for 5 referrals, now I have 25 people. And if I have 25 people and I ask them for 5 referrals, I now have 125 people. I would go to that network of people first and see if anybody knows something about that company. See if somebody can refer you in. All right. So try not to go in cold. But if you're going in cold with no referral, then I would look to see what are you interested in? Let's say you're interested in a career in research. Who's the head of research in that company? Look through and see. Do they have a director title? Do they have a VP title? I wouldn't go as high up as into the C-suite if you're coming right out of college. But I would say look at the director or VP title, see if there's somebody that's there. And then I would start in the message that you send to them with something that you accomplished that sets you out, that tells your story that you did, almost like a white paper. Here's something that I accomplished in my education. I'm very interested in an entry-level position in your functional area. I would welcome an exploratory conversation with you for 5 to 15 minutes to talk about opportunities in your company. Another great thing to do is look at the press releases that are out there. Go to the company's website. What press releases are out there? Find one that has something to do with the functional area, the position that you're looking for, and mention that. Saying, start off going to someone on that LinkedIn, the director level, the VP level, and say, look, great news about your company with regard to X. That has me very excited about your company. I'm looking for opportunities, entry-level opportunities in your company, and go there. Another place would be take a look at the alumni in that company. Is there a Morningside alumni? Is there an alumni from one of your parents' school? Is there an alumni from one of your best friends' parents' school? But see if there's a way that you can get in to get referred in. That would be my suggestion if you're having to go in cold. Try, if you can, to use your network and go to your network before going in cold.
That's perfect, Fred. Thank you so much. I think that note is so important, right? I'm sure you get a lot of LinkedIn requests. I get a ton of LinkedIn requests from people that I don't know at all. And if I don't know why they want to know me, I'm not super interested in connecting with them. So that note just becomes so, so important.
Yeah, what you say in that note is important. And if you can connect it and find something that connects to them, like the press release or somebody anything like that's really highly important. They will not even get to your resume if the note is not compelling.
Definitely, definitely. We did have a private message from someone asking if you can repeat the assessment that you had mentioned. I think it was a type.
Oh yeah. So type coach. So it's www.type-coach.com. I really like the report. I also like what they do and walking through. It looks a lot like a Myers-Briggs profile, but it's different. And you can see on each of the four dichotomies that go with Myers-Briggs, you can see where you end up on that. And you you learn about the personality type as you go through it. That tool is really designed towards communications. And I think that's the most important thing that you could be working on in your job search is the improvement of your communications. So type coach.
Awesome. So in the comments, I did just put in the survey. We asked if you did attend this event that you would take a couple minutes to fill out that survey. Just gives us some good feedback on how we can improve. I have two questions popping up right now. The first one says, you mentioned how to use a resume. Is there a different way to use a cover letter, or is it also a 2-minute story?
No, your 2-minute drill and your cover letters are different. So in the cover letter, you want to be able to indicate, hey, this is how I found out about this position. I saw your job on LinkedIn, but then if you can add a sentence or two about, yeah, so-and-so referred me and recommended or had this kind of positive comment about your business. Next would be, if you've seen anything out there on a press release that's impressive, I would then put in, I'm really attracted to your company based on what you saw in that press release. The third thing is, why are you interested in this job? Don't go to, hey, I think my background makes me greatly qualified and excellent candidate for your job. I mean, everybody's saying that. What you want to do is talk about an accomplishment that you have that's a fit to that, okay? So you may look at the job and say, look, I was involved in this in a team project in school and very, very interested in this, okay? So now you've done three things. You've told them how you found out about them. If you've got any kind of referral relationship, you've told them about that. You've looked at the company and found something exciting, interested that sparked your interest in it. And then third, you've told them an accomplishment that relates to the job. And then fourth, you express an interest in a discussion and providing any kind of additional information that they might have. That to me is a cover letter.
Awesome. Looks like last question we have here. I have a resume question. If you're not currently working but are virtually volunteering, would you recommend to add your current volunteer work or only include your professional work on your resume?
Oh, include the volunteering work, definitely. Particularly if you're, you may have a volunteer work where you've learned a whole bunch. Maybe you were even actually managing somebody or supervising in your volunteer work. Or maybe there was a big accomplishment in your volunteer work. Definitely under your work experience or career experience in your resume, definitely put in and include that in. you never know. You may look at the company and find that what you're doing volunteer work is a major philanthropic thing that they're doing. And that is something you may want to highlight in your 2-minute drill when you're talking to them, or may want to highlight in your resume. But do some research on that company. This is a full-time job and looking for a job. So do that work. Don't cut corners.
Awesome. We did have one more question come on in, and it's actually from Cleo. It says, Fred, please speak to the strength of using your network to canvass job opportunities and relate it back to the slide on positions that are filled and never posted.
Yeah. Thanks, Cleo. No, really good. So again, I just want to say networking next week, definitely go to that. But to Cleo's point, as you expand your network out, your first relationships are definitely going to work for you. Your second circle, third circle, those are people, friends of friends that can refer you into companies. Do exploratory conversations with them. You might find that your best friend's uncle's working in a bank that you're interested in. Use that network to go do an exploratory conversation. Reach out to them saying, look, I don't know anything about the banking industry, but I'm curious about it. Would you take my call for 15 minutes and tell me a little bit about the industry? People want to help. People are not going to respond to, hey, do you have a job for me? They're not going to do that. If you went to that, friend's uncle and said, hey, you're in banking, I want a job, they're not going to respond to that. But if you reach out to them and say, hey, look, I'm interested in banking, I'm interested in this, would welcome to find out what you know about it. That's the kind of networking, that's the door that gets open to that 80% of jobs that are filled before they even hit the market. I think that's it on that.
Awesome. Just great information, Fred. We really super appreciate you joining us today. Cleo, did you want to pop on and give us some closing comments?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Well, I tell you, it's really not about hearing me. Did you hear Fred? Because the fact of the matter is, I'm biased. As I've shared earlier with you, Fred and I have known each other 7, 8 years. He has been a great friend, a professional coach, a mentor. In fact, the way Fred and I met, he was on a recruiting search for a high-level executive position for a company. And the process that we went through really incorporates a lot of the things that he talked about. The job was offered, but for some extenuating circumstances, I was not able to accept it. But I will tell what I did accept. I accepted the expertise, the genuineness, the authenticity, and also the value that Fred brings. And he is within my network and will stay within my network. And I call on him all the time whenever there's any particular conundrum that I'm dealing with. So that's my testament. And I hope today you found what he was able to share with you enlightening. I hope that you found it informative, but more importantly, relevant no matter where you are in your job search. Because without question, Fred understands where you are based on the situation, and he brings you not the what, but the so what of it to help you provide a framework to navigate these fluid and dynamic waters that COVID-19 has brought us. So thank you so much, Fred. We are in your debt. We truly appreciate it.
Cleo, you're very, very generous. My end comment would be, look, looking for a job is one of the stressful things that you do in life. And you're going to do it multiple times in your career. Start this practice, build this skill, take on some of the things I said. They will actually get you, accelerate your search for you and help you find that job. But again, it's a stressful, challenging time. It's also crazy exciting. When you get those job offers, when you're meeting people, really exciting times. Know your story. And have humility and authenticity through the process.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Fred. I do want to remind people in the chat there is the survey link. So please fill out the survey link so that we can get some feedback on this presentation. And in addition, we would welcome you to join us again next week. Fred kind of alluded a little bit as to what we'll be talking about, which is networking in a pandemic situation. So just a lot more information about how you could use that. But again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate you, Fred. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.